Here's your warning, this episode contains spoilers for the 2002 film Resident Evil. Hello and welcome to Badaptationpod, where we watch and talk about every theatrically released video game adaptation, their sequels, tie-ins, spin-offs and other bits and bobs. I'm your host Finn and I'm joined as always by my co-host Guy.
Hello.
This week, we're watching Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil from 2002. Let's have a look at the trailer.
Deep underground, in a top-secret research lab, security has been breached. A deadly virus capable of contaminating the entire world has been released.
Oh my god.
We have to get out of this building. What was that? It's the brakes!
It's okay, we're here to help.
Now, an elite team has been sent in to stop it.
5 hours ago, Red Queen went homicidal.
Who's the Red Queen?
State-of-the-art artificial intelligence.
The corporation's keeping a few secrets down here.
But they have only 3 hours left before it begins infecting and mutating the whole human race.
Everyone stay calm.
You have to get out.
Don't listen to anything she says. She's a holographic representation of the Red Queen.
Maybe our only way out of here.
How is she still standing?
She isn't standing now.
No one is immune. Resident Evil.
You're all going to die down here.
Oh,
Hey, did you know this was released in 2002?
there's definitely some giveaways, so I don't know if you want to get into it now, but...
I'll give a brief synopsis
Okay, let's do it.
the movie and everything around it. So Underworld is a long-running sci-fi horror action series distributed by Screen Gems with a decent amount of gore. A kick-ass female protagonist played by an actress who married the director after filming the first movie. Resident Evil is apparently an entirely separate franchise, which we'll be covering over the course of this podcast, starting today with the first entry. What I found really different for 2002 is that you had 2 billed female leads, and that was it. That was the only 2 people they advertised as being in the movie.
Yeah.
The trailer, does that mean it passes the Bechdel test? I've never listened to a woman explain what that is to me.
Does it? Oh, I can't remember the rules now,
I
too.
can. It's I think they got to have a conversation with each other, both being named characters, not
Without
about
another
other men.
man.
Yeah.
So it does.
Oh, the movie does. I don't think the trailer does.
No, the trailer doesn't.
Imagine if it... I don't think this podcast does. Definitely not the first podcast to not pass the Bechdel test.
That's right.
So this is based on the popular video game, Mila Jovovich, I believe. I may be getting that wrong.
Yeah, I couldn't decide if it was like Mila Jovovich, Jojovic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just call her Mila.
Yeah. Or Mia, I don't know, could be. She stars as a mysterious member of a commando team who must break into the Hive, which is a vast underground genetics laboratory operated by the powerful Umbrella Corporation, which I've heard of despite not having played the games. There, a deadly virus has been unleashed, killing the lab's personnel and resurrecting them as zombies. The thing that I copy and pasted this from emphasized they were evil zombies. I didn't think that distinction was necessary.
No.
The team has just 3 hours to shut down the lab's supercomputer and close the facility before the virus threatens to overrun the Earth. Thankfully, the movie does not last that full 3 hours.
They condense some parts of it, thank
Yeah.
God. Although it is an hour and 40 minutes, which is probably about 20 minutes too long.
That's not That's not unfair, I reckon.
Well, we'll talk about it in a second, but we got any more of the synopsis?
Not of the synopsis. That about covers it.
Okay.
However, just quickly, I wanted to get into your experiences
Yes.
with the game.
Well, let's just dive into that just really quickly. So, and maybe this can be a new section of the podcast.
Everything is a new section. It's the first episode,
well,
guy.
that's right. But an ongoing thing, which is I was born and you weren't, and it basically involves all these.
I was born when
you
this
were
came
born.
out.
You were
Yeah,
born. Technically, you were born. But so for me, this was like in 2002. So I was 19 when this came out. Because I'm 39 now, just in case anyone's keeping score. And
we hate giving out maths.
but like, so for me, this was a very this was a bit of a sort of cultural phenomenon. Like Resident Evil, the games was like really, really big, and Resident Evil, the games for me is like one of my favorite games of all time. Which and in fact, it's the only game series that I've continued to play up until this point and have finished every single one of.
Wow.
Not counting some of the spin-offs, the shitty spin-offs.
So like the main line.
Yeah, the main line, I've played all and finished all of them.
You
And I have not achieved that. I mean, I've pretty much quit playing video games.
Because you're 39.
Because I'm 39 years old, and it's hard to do fun things as you get older. You stop doing fun things. They sort of fall by the wayside. It just becomes responsibility and making money. So
you do this instead.
Look forward to that. But for me, I was like, oh man, they're doing Resident Evil. God, this is awesome. And I did go and see this at the movies. And I was pretty upset. I was pretty angry when I watched this. I was not happy with the artistic liberties that they took. I was very disappointed in like that they really... It has nothing to do with the games, basically. As in plot-wise, there's very few similarities apart from Umbrella Corporation and apart from zombies.
Yes.
And I felt that, and the T virus, so a couple of the monster that we'll talk about later, I suppose. But you guys may have gathered from the trailer is like an action film.
Yes.
And the whole point originally of Resident Evil, and unfortunately, this is what happened: is Resident Evil started taking things from the Resident Evil movies.
Yes.
They started getting bad ideas from
Absolutely.
the movies and made it more actiony. But the original Resident Evil was survival horror. The whole thing that made it good was that it was very scary and that you were kind of shitting your pants. And I was like, oh man, survival horror, zombies, how could you lose? Well, you could turn it into an action film, use none of the plot, and just sort of throw everything out. So I was definitely quite disappointed by what transpires in this film.
Do you have any idea of how it turned into an action film? Because it wasn't always going to be.
No, let's dive in.
So, I have some information that George A. Romero actually wrote a script for Resident Evil.
I actually had heard that one.
Yeah,
yes.
they turned it down because it was too gory, too, I guess, adult-based. Maybe he wrote in some nuance into the script and they were like, no, we don't want any of that. No way, Jose. And he went, all right.
Well, what's
we'll
Paul
give it to
W.S. Anderson doing?
Yeah, well, he had the best performing video game adaptation so far in Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. How can we forget?
Yeah, low budget, high profit. You know,
Yeah.
That's exactly what they were going for here.
Yeah.
And he did it again.
He did do it again.
Yep. Can't fault him on that.
No, you can't. You can't take away from the unfortunate success of this franchise.
Hey, every number
for
one
8
song
films.
is a good song. Am I right? Huh? Who's going to argue with me on that? Pop is always good because it's popular.
Yeah, so a note, I guess, on Paul W.S. Anderson is there is also, he's not to be confused with Paul Thomas Anderson.
No.
And Wes Anderson. So there's 3 directors, all with a similar name. And of these directors, Paul W.S. Anderson is the worst Anderson director by a long shot.
Yeah, you hear that? All you Andersons watching?
Shots fired.
Yeah. Pew, pew.
But, you know, he's still a very successful director. So, but
he'll be crying all the way to the bank.
Well, he actually originally had to put the W.S. in because the 2 Paul Andersons were getting confused and they couldn't get appropriate credits in the Directors Guild or whatever.
Like Michael J. Fox. The J doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the poor man's director with Anderson as a last name.
He is not a poor man, though. Thanks
Certainly
to
not
this
a poor
movie
man.
and every sequel afterwards.
I also thought it was interesting that he did not date, or maybe he was dating, but he didn't like officially get together with Mila Jovovich, YOLO, what?
We'll edit in the right one.
It doesn't matter.
No,
but,
we won't.
We won't. But
Can't find one.
But it wasn't till like a couple of Resident Evils in that she just gave up. She's like, well, I guess
You think she just gave in?
Well, yeah, it just seems like that. She was like, look, I've got a lot of things going on. Maybe one of the other Anderson directors will want me for a film. And then she kind of got trapped in this franchise, and then she got trapped with Paul W.S. Anderson.
I mean, we can't say whether
No,
it
we're
went down like that or
pure
not.
speculation.
On your behalf.
Yes.
I think that what really happened is that he managed to get a really good pay cut for her, and then he wanted in on that, and so he married her. So she's not his wife; he is her husband.
Yeah. Well,
financially.
There you go.
Yep.
That was just my note on the other directors have done stuff. Paul Thomas Anderson has done There Will Be Blood and The Phantom Thread and The Master and Boogie Nights.
I was born when some of those came out.
And Wes Anderson probably has done Fantastic Mr. Fox. Grand Budapest Hotel is probably his biggest film.
That is sci-fi horror.
What? Grand Budapest Hotel?
Yeah.
We're stuck with the worst Anderson, and
That's what the W stands for.
Not great Resident Evil, maybe.
Paul Worst Screenwriter Anderson.
Yeah.
I think that's what it stands for, at least
Yeah.
in your mind.
Yeah, well, maybe in a lot of people's minds.
I don't mind the guy. I think he's all right.
He does have some artistic flair, you know.
Yes.
There was some nice flourishes in here, I will admit.
Absolutely.
Visually speaking.
I agree with his taste in side boob.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you want to dive in to probably the most watched scene of this movie?
Yeah, let's
That
do it.
is that laser scene.
That laser scene.
Some kind of dormant defense mechanism. We must have tripped it when we opened the door.
Put it back to sleep.
Working on it. Would you open that door now, please? I'm trying.
Hold your positions. Everyone stay calm.
What's that?
What's what?
I don't think he's been in this movie until then.
My God, Kaplan, there's something killing them in there! Hurry, you gotta...
It's going the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Stay conscious. You're going into shock.
Stay awake! I am almost there. It's coming back! Open the door! I'm trying! We're trying harder! It's coming back!
Didn't make it.
That's some video game bullshit right there, man.
I'm almost there. Come on!
Got it.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I really like the eye leaking. That's
Yeah.
a detail I really like.
Nice.
About
It was a nice touch. And also how they threw it out of focus rather than stay in focus to see it maybe not look amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even so, the physics weren't amazing for it anyway. But I can forgive it, honestly.
Is that the best scene in the whole film?
It's the most memorable
It is definitely the most
because
memorable.
it comes kind of out of the blue, and then just everyone dies.
And when I watched that again, because I obviously quite vividly remembered that was the only thing I remembered about this film.
Exactly.
The only thing.
So does that make it the best film?
Or
I mean,
no,
the best scene.
Well,
I mean, obviously it's the best film. There's no discussion.
it is actually probably the best Resident Evil film. Unfortunately.
I may disagree with you there
Okay,
based on the
okay.
one other one I've seen.
Right.
It's pretty obvious which one. But
Yeah, so, yeah, for me, I was sort of like, not sure about that. But, yeah, I agree it's the best scene in the whole thing, probably.
I have your mate's words on that. Roger Ebert, someone that I know that you'll know.
Yes.
Personally?
Not personally.
Yeah. Well, we won't call him Rog
He was
then.
before my time in terms of... I myself am a film director, so...
Oh.
He does not review any of my films. Did not have the pleasure.
That's very funny. No, I agree. So he had to say this, or he had this to say on the laser scene. So there was one neat effect when characters unwisely venture into a corridor and the door slams shut on them. Then a laser beam passes at head level, decapitating one. Another beam whizzes past at waist level, cutting the second in two while the others duck. I mean, not quite true, he's misremembered, but, we'll give him a pass. He is dead. A third laser pretends to be high, but then switches to low, but the third character outsmarts him by jumping. Yeah, he's getting it a little bit wrong. Anyway, he says, since the grid is inescapable, what were the earlier lasers about? Does the corridor have a sense of humor? I think it kind of does. It could have just done that from the beginning, couldn't it?
Well, that's, I guess, when you pick it apart a little bit and you go, okay, so if the goal is to laser these people and you can do the massive everything laser, why didn't you start with that?
Yeah. But again, it's AI, so you could argue that it is just the Red Queen just messing with them a little bit.
Yeah, or it's just like, look, I'm just going to send one laser out. I don't want to waste too much power on this, right? And then it's like, okay, let me move the lasers a bit. All right. Okay, let me give you all the lasers if you want to be smart about it.
Yeah, you want to dive through one of these? Nah.
You want to be a cool guy? You want to do one of, it was very impressive how he jumped up and he held himself vertical. Mm-hmm. What was he holding on to?
I think just were there any... Let's not check. But were there rails?
Were there?
I don't know.
Were there? I'm not sure.
Maybe they're clap activated and they just, he knows.
Most memorable scene, definitely probably the best part of the film. When I rewatched it, I was like, yeah, that was cool.
It was disappointing for me that he died because he was, I think he was credited as Mr. Exposition. Yeah. He explained the film up until then to me.
Yes.
And from then I had to really pay attention when watching the film to know what was going on. Luckily, not a lot went on. So
yes. Yeah, well, he was kind of cool too.
Yeah.
He had that deep baritone voice, commanding.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think he played his part very well.
Yeah.
So I just want to speak to this for a second.
Yeah, okay. This poster.
So before the movie's release, Sony actually had a competition of a poster, can you design the poster for the movie?
Okay.
This won.
Really?
Yes. It won. They got money and they got to see a screening for free, which...
That's crazy.
Yeah, but the winner was an ex-video game magazine cover designer.
Okay. So it wasn't just some nerd in his basement. I mean...
It was. Look at it.
But he had a career, I guess, is what I'm saying. It wasn't just some random, high schooler doodling in Photoshop.
No, and I'm also curious whether Michelle Rodriguez was on it, because I've seen versions where she's not. I've also seen versions with a different gun.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of maybe changes have been made based on Michelle Rodriguez kind of even outperforming her in the box office, based on Fast and Furious.
Is how they got the assets. Did Sony give out, here's a bunch of cutouts, because when you do Photoshop, you basically take a bunch of images, you put them together, you put some backgrounds.
No, they had to go and take photos.
Exactly.
And this was a very popular paparazzi shot that she posed for inadvertently.
She was a promising actress before Resident Evil. A promising young actress.
She has probably made more money than a lot of good actresses.
Well, look, if you judge... from a financial point of view, obviously she's made an absolute mince.
Yes.
And it's kept her gainfully employed for the better part of 20 years.
And this is not the only video game movie she's in.
That's right.
We will be seeing her again outside of Resident Evil.
Oh, man, on another Paul W.S. Anderson film.
I think so.
Yeah.
Did he direct Monster Hunter?
Yeah.
All right, I haven't seen that one yet.
No, me neither.
I haven't seen most of these. I imagine it's the newer ones you haven't seen.
Well, see, this is the weird thing is I watched this... I was very underwhelmed by it, and I was very upset by it. And then I was like, oh, well, obviously they're going to keep this going. And then it made heaps of money, and I was like, okay. And then Resident Evil 2 came out, which I didn't know. I thought it was all direct. I thought he directed the whole series. He didn't direct 2 and 3.
No, he was a writer, though.
And then he came back. He was just writer-producer or something.
Yeah,
and the writing is inexcusable. And look, they do get worse. They do get worse. Resident Evil 2 is quite a lot worse than Resident Evil 1. Resident Evil 3 is probably marginally worse than Resident Evil 2. And then they kind of get a little bit better.
Yep.
And then they get a little bit worse. And then they just really, by the end of it, it's just a total mess.
I have only seen this one and the second one.
Right.
And I actually do prefer the second one.
Really?
Because more happens. It's schlocky dumb. We'll talk about it when we cover it, but
Yeah.
I do enjoy that one. Not because it's good.
I just couldn't, like, after I watched this, I was like, man, I'm so angry. This is not what Resident Evil should be. My issue was just like, it should be starring Claire Redfield and Jill Valentine.
Yes.
Not Alice? Alice? Who the hell is Alice? Anyway, that was my sort of big issue. I was just like, okay, why didn't we have those characters? Why don't we have any of that story? And then they kind of try and retrofit some of them in bad, poor, completely meaningless ways, and it just never really comes together. But I kept watching these.
Yes.
Every time they came out, I was like, it was kind of like an abusive relationship that I kept coming back to. I was just like, it'll be better now. It'll be better. It'll be all right now. It'll be fine now. This is good. I think this was going to be a good one. And each time I was like, I'm not doing it again. I'm never going back. And then the very next year,
bit of side boob, you're like, oh.
So I have given a lot of money to the Resident Evil movie and game franchise.
And now we fully endorse the continuation of the reboot series, which I haven't seen yet.
And is not good. And I've got some theories on why no one can make a good Resident Evil. And maybe if we play a little clip of the original Resident Evil, it might explain everything. So let's just throw to that now.
You did a really good job. This case was just too weird. This case was...
This case was.
Don't! Hell. Umbrella.
I have been looking around for clues.
Okay, I'll go to the other house and see if I can find any clues.
Will you do that?
How about going down to check by yourself? I have a rope here.
Oh, do you? Well, then I'll try to go down using the rope.
Whoa! This hall is dangerous. There must be a back door somewhere.
I can treat you, except for your major injury. Would you like me to?
Yes, please do something for me, temporarily.
Oh, no, you must be kidding. After we've come all the way here.
Ladies first. Go first, Jill.
But Chris...
Give me a chance to play nice guy.
Chris! Chris! You like it?
Oh, that was great.
It sounds like every word of every
We must
line.
organize a search for the others and get the hell out of here.
Okay, that's enough.
It sounds like every line, in some cases, every word of every line is recorded completely isolated to everything else. No context of like what the situation is.
Well, I think this is what happens when Japanese game developers commission or hire a cast to voice these things, and English is not their first language.
Yeah.
And so I guess what the thing is I look at that Resident Evil and I'm like, this is Shakespeare, right? This is
As a
genius.
child.
Like as in, like my impression of it.
Yes.
I was like, this is such a scary, well written, and I knew like obviously we used to mock the lines all the time, but the overall thing, I was like, you can't mess with this, man. You can't be bringing it. You can't make it a heist film. You cannot make this a heist film. But obviously, when we look back at that, what else were they going to do? They couldn't actually do what the game had done because that was just as cheesy and bad in a different way.
Yes.
And what I was connecting to was that survival horror gameplay element, which could not be conveyed through some of this stuff.
I think the issue with adapting video games, I'm basically just going to sum up the entire freaking podcast idea right now, is that doing the thing is more fun than watching the thing.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I haven't seen the Uncharted movie, but when I heard about it, I thought, that's a really weird idea because the video games are, what if you could play an Indiana Jones movie? And now they're
be
going...
him and
Yeah. And now they're going, what if you could watch an Indiana Jones movie?
Or what if you could watch...
worse.
an Indiana Jones movie that's really a knockoff of Indiana Jones. Would you like to do that rather than watch Indiana Jones or play as Indiana Jones?
And Lara Croft's Tomb Raider's already out. And the sequel to that is already out. And then the reboot to that is already out. We'll cover all of them.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So, yeah, I think they were stuck between a rock and a hard place in terms of how do we get this survival horror vibe?
Yes.
And instead of actually trying, they're like, you know what? Nah, I'm not going to do that.
No.
Throwing it out.
I think because in Resident Evil there was a lot of gore.
Yeah.
In the games, as pixelated as it was still gore, and it was on a CRT TV, so the pixels looked a lot better.
Yeah.
To get that for a movie, you're going to have to go NC-17 in America, and that's really just going to cut down on your profit. That's what they're thinking of.
Yeah. And what was this? What restriction was this?
Don't know, but not NC-17.
Okay.
Whatever one is below that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want it to be too violent.
Yeah.
They could have gone with, hey, zombies got blue blood. I guess. You know, they're very rich and fancy.
The zombies are very underwhelming in this.
Okay. Zombie movies, I find the action scenes of zombie movies always suck. Because it's just, let's riddle them with bullets and they'll not react. Where's the fun in that? Imagine like a Jackie Chan stunt fighting action movie and he just punches a guy heaps of times and he doesn't react. That's how I feel when I'm just watching them go.
Right.
And they go, even in this movie, they go slow motion. They're like, oh, look at them shoot. And I'm just thinking,
yeah,
they sure are shooting. Why don't they stop that? Because it's not working and do something else.
Yeah.
Nah, let's just keep going. This is action. It's the illusion of something happening.
That's right. Well, it did take, I timed it, it took 40 minutes for the zombies to arrive.
Yeah.
Not good.
No.
My girlfriend also called it residential evil. And I said, I think you're talking about the Auckland housing market. That's a joke for New Zealanders.
That's a very regional joke.
Yeah.
I mean, the housing market
it's
just
not good.
No, wherever you are, it's probably not good.
In these times. The zombies were terrible in this. Zombies used to just be guys with like a bit of white face paint on, essentially, right? That's what, and you know, some kind of not amazing looking things. We hadn't got The Walking Dead yet. We hadn't sort of introduced the zombie contacts as a thing that they use like really extensively.
Yeah. And
so all of that leads to some like looking back at this in this 2002 film, being like, yeah, man, these zombies are terrible.
They literally couldn't afford extras. So they used Capcom staff and like just people that were on the stunt team.
I noticed there was a distinct lack of like people. Like it would always cut to them going, like, you know, pointing the guns. And then you'd kind of see like 3 zombies lined up in a row using essentially like a long lens to make it look like there's more of them and narrowing it so you can't see too much.
It's like when they film like a news segment in front of a large crowd, and it's just like 12 people sectioned
all bunched together.
Yeah. So to make it look like, wow, look at all these people here.
Yeah.
So those people in the background, in the credits, have you seen what they're listed as?
No.
It's just colors, like Mr. Grey, Dr. Red, Mr. Gold, Mrs. White.
Yeah.
Like, that's some creativity there. Hey, what's your favorite color? There you go, it's $20. You want to put some makeup on?
Yeah, so they kind of went with this whole heist thing instead of this heist action movie.
MacGuffin retrieval movie.
Yeah, rather than like a true zombie film or even a true horror film. Right. They were trying to shut down the Red Queen.
Yes.
And retrieve something?
Once they found out that there was an antivirus, then they wanted that.
But they didn't know about that to begin
they were
with.
very keen to get vaccinated, weren't they? As they should be.
They believed in the vaccine.
Yeah, absolutely. And turns out
the vaccine didn't work on one of them.
Yes, this is true. But they did say that it might not under certain conditions.
That's right. So many parallels.
Yes, to something. Speaking of parallels to something, this was originally going to be called Resident Evil Ground Zero. But post 9/11 world, you can't just be going around calling things that.
Ground Zero, yeah.
Yep. So they didn't.
Well, I mean,
I think they're cowardly for not doing it.
From what you've seen of this, it is very, I would actually say, late 90s in its styling and its filmic stylings.
Yeah.
It is very late 90s, and it is very much like, so basically The Matrix came out and everyone decided we're going to rip that off.
What do you think was more influential, The Matrix or 9/11?
On film?
That's in general.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that for film,
yes,
The Matrix was more influential, I think.
Yeah, I did see a lot of people wearing long trench coats in like 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even this like heroine is sort of styled in the same way.
Yeah.
And you know, there was just a lot of
Check that outfit out.
There's slow motion, there's like bullet time-esque things that they, you know,
such as that kick on the dog. Speaking of that kick on the dog. Close.
At least they use real dogs for a significant amount of this.
Yeah. Should be so good at Time Crisis.
I mean, this is true to the game. You do shoot zombie dogs.
Yes. And that was true to the movie The Matrix.
Yes, that was very authentic to the movie that they were ripping off the most,
Yes.
The Matrix.
Oh, they weren't the worst offenders of ripping off The Matrix, though.
No.
Definitely not.
They weren't. So that zombie dog.
That could just be Trinity, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would have preferred it.
Yes. Yeah, it's weird because when I was watching, I was like, look, this is not the game, but I am enjoying the lasers.
Yes.
And, you know, there's some okay stuff in here. And then she did that and kicked the dog, and I was like, and I did, obviously, you kind of see a preview of it in the teaser.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah.
Yeah, there's no...
Nah. Also, the other thing is,
Batman.
like, Trinity has been programmed with, like, all this different kung fu thing for her to do. She is just some person at this point who is like an operative of something.
Yes.
But not a run-up-the-wall, kick a dog in slow motion operative.
You don't know that. And she doesn't know that either. She's
Well,
lost her memory.
yeah.
That's the thing. So amnesia as a plot point,
Yeah.
it's just a convenient thing to be like, well, it's so like you can learn when they learn, so you can still relate to them. Does it need to be in there? Probably not.
One of the things that I wrote down is that her character here is the antithesis of someone with a character, because essentially her character is a person who has forgot everything.
Yes.
And remembers a tiny bit of it.
Yes.
No personality.
No.
Oh, no, she does have one personality trait.
Kick.
I was going to say her personality trait is never ever killing someone when they need to be killed, when they get begged to be killed or asked to be killed.
Restraint.
Restraint.
Except when it comes to dogs.
Foolish restraint. Is that's all we know. We know nothing about her. We get zero information. There's nothing that reveals itself through, like she's just hanging about shooting people.
Oh, there's one thing that's revealed.
Yeah.
Her tasteful side boob.
Yes, which
foolish,
is...
foolish restraint and tasteful side boob.
Yeah, and...
It's opposite ends of the spectrum.
A very good side boob it was. Let's not... You know, I don't want to diminish that, but I'm not saying that as in terms
I don't
of
want
like
to get too hung up on it, to be fair.
in terms of like character, she's just a person that doesn't remember anything for most of this film.
Yeah.
And then does remember a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not a character. That's not a three-dimensional person.
It's an easy catch-all of just like we need to add a extra bit of the plot. Now let's have her remember it.
Yeah.
Flashback.
Yeah.
To I don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah, I those are the bits that made me tune out. And it seems to be more for a sequel than for this movie itself.
Yeah.
I think I wasn't really paying attention during the flashback scenes.
Yeah.
I was just waiting for the action.
Yeah.
In this sci-fi horror
genre. This survival horror film.
Exactly.
What we thought we might be seeing, but yeah. I will say there is a fun shot where someone tries to break glass with an axe, and this tiny little shard pops out the other side.
Yes.
That was good. I also did like there's also another scene where someone foolishly again there's like cool, the elevator is jammed halfway up.
Oh, that's brutal.
Let's pull it open, let's pry it open, and let me squeeze out in this hole that is a bit too small for a human being to squeeze out of.
Yes.
And everything will be fine because we know from like real life when this has happened that it's always been fine when anyone's ever tried that.
Of course.
So they do quite a nice sort of Final Destination fake out where the elevator goes down and she's like, because she's stuck with her head sticking out of it.
Yes.
And then it stops, the brakes hit again and she's like, And then it goes back up the other way and beheads her. That was good. That was good. I'm just talking highlights here.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to have to be able to get through this endeavor that would be, just look at the highlights of these movies while there are some.
Yes.
Looking at you, Alone in the Dark 2, probably. Haven't seen it yet. So I have a disdain for certain things in horror movies. One is jump scares.
Well, you don't need to worry about that here.
They tried.
They tried.
And the thing that annoys me.
They tried. They really tried.
None of them were real.
Yeah.
And all of them, the jump is, we will play an audio sting very loud.
Yeah.
That is like...
Which is a poor man's jump scare.
Absolutely. Because the character's not hearing that.
Yeah.
Most of the time. It's just a loud screech.
Yeah.
And like people just love, in this movie, people love going up behind somebody in this very scary scenario and just being like,
yo.
Hey, I'm right behind you.
And it's like, whoa,
why are you so jumpy? It's like, because you're a freaking zombies, man.
And you just snuck up on me.
Yeah.
While I was keeping an eye out for the zombies.
I have a gun.
Yeah. Very dangerous games played here. Yeah, so what I thought about those jump scares is none of them worked apart from the one which you actually see in the trailer as well, which is the hand on the thing.
Yes.
Because they kind of fake it out beforehand, with a bit of misdirection beforehand. They don't do it when they could. But it is also very reliant on a loud piece of music.
Yes. I'd say the most horror element of the entire movie.
I would say there's like 6 or 7 faux jump scares or supposed jump scares that are not jumpy nor scary.
Yeah. Just jumpy.
Yeah.
But that's because someone's just put an air horn
a
next
jump
to you.
of a cringe of like, you really did that?
Like, it's getting a fright as opposed to getting scared. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
I think.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because also none of them really build, any suspense prior to.
No.
And then, like we even saw that example, like she's going for the gun.
Yes.
And we go, don't go for the gun because the zombie is going to grab you.
Yeah.
And then a zombie dog jumps through the window instead. Gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's not a gotcha.
That dog was stronger than an axe.
Yeah. Because it could jump right through. The axe could only get a little shard of glass out the other side.
Yeah. And dog was fine.
Dogs are much more powerful when they become zombies.
Yes.
And more athletic.
Unless they get kicked.
Yeah.
Are they allergic to feet?
Well, that's the thing is like she kicked that zombie hard, right?
Yeah, it was a good kick.
But not,
it was a really good kick.
But not probably hard enough to break his neck.
Nah.
So it should have just got back up.
Yeah, but I'm glad the scene was over.
Yeah, me too. That's in terms of you really lost me points, that was certainly one of them for me.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the television show Ugly Betty?
Yes.
Then you would have recognized the most boring-looking man to ever star in a movie. The guy who played Matt.
Which guy is that?
Exactly. But it was the one who was arrested with her at first. The one who lasts up until the end of the movie.
Oh, right.
Matt Addison.
Yes.
Who turns into... he gets put into the Nemesis program.
Oh, so he's the one that lasts right to the end.
Yes.
That guy's face... Something about it.
He looks like any 80s or 90s video game protagonist and not in a good way.
Yeah, it's like there's just something career sort of...
Vacuum?
Yes, exactly. That's just sucking... Like, whenever you see his face on screen, you go, no!
He sits very... he's sitting there while they're all shooting zombies. He's sitting there with his hands behind his back. He's handcuffed, but he's sitting very straight with his... he's got very good posture.
He does have good posture. That's the main thing. Also, this scene, I don't know if you remember this moment. He runs into his sister.
What a coincidence, right?
But yeah, there's just something about this guy's face that just really...
If you pause it there, let's pretend you paused it earlier. He has no distinguishing features.
That's what I mean.
Like, he could get away with murder. Because if you described him to somebody, to a sketch artist... They'd draw literally anybody in the world.
Yeah.
If I shaved my face, I'd have the same features as him. Yeah, 2 eyes, hairs on the top of his head, plain looking man.
It's so weird But he's an ugly Betty, you're telling me.
Yeah, he was like the main love interest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But essentially his sister creeps up behind him, clearly a zombie, but not clearly a zombie.
Yeah, it's quite. They make it intentionally unclear, I think, just to keep you in the dark as a viewer.
But it's also like either you're acting like a zombie or you're not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're not acting like, I'm just shuffling, I could be a zombie, I could not be a zombie.
I'm just a little bit shy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just your sister walking up behind you slowly. Either you're a zombie and you're like, I want to eat your brains immediately.
Yeah.
As soon as I see you, I'm rushing over and eating. Or I am your sister.
Yeah.
It's not this like, huh? Is that my sister? Are you all good? Oh no, you're not all good.
They should hire you for the voice acting in Resident Evil games.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I actually do some great. What is it? That's from Resident Evil the game.
Something I don't understand about. Like, I've never got into the whole zombie thing. I've never really understood the appeal.
Yeah.
It's just,
Whereas I made a feature film about zombies, a zombie film. I made my literal first film is a zombie film.
Yeah.
Not only is it a zombie film, it pays homage to Resident Evil and has several scenes directly referencing Resident Evil, including the opening sequence. Go ahead.
So, like how this rips off The Matrix, he ripped off this movie.
I was ripping off the game. Let's be very clear here. I was ripping off the game.
An important distinction.
Yes.
A very important distinction. But for me, zombies have always just been kind of a boring palette to just they're just these grey things. And like, someone could try and explain it to me. It doesn't mean I'm going to like it.
Sure.
Right? Why don't they eat each other's brains, for one? It's never really explained.
Living tissue.
Sure.
It's all about living tissue.
Yeah, just like how they explained it in this movie. Did you explain that in yours?
Well, I left it somewhat ambiguous because, one of the first rules of filmmaking is if you can't explain, as soon as you explain something,
you have to adhere to it.
I was going to say, as soon as you explain something, it becomes less interesting than maybe what your audience was imagining.
True.
And because it turns out that you are a human being just like them, and you have thoughts and ideas just like them, and your sort of rationalization for whatever that is probably going to be not amazing because you're not working at some higher level.
Yeah.
So let's just maybe not,
Yeah. I can appreciate that. Like, zombies are after brains, right?
Well, actually, they're only after brains in Return of the Living Dead.
But like
all other things,
that's the
they're
trope,
just after
though.
People.
Like, that's the trope. If someone's going to do an impression of a zombie, they'll be
They
like,
say brains.
brains.
Yeah.
Like vampires, they want to suck your blood. Werewolves, I don't know what their deal is. They're just angry. Yeah.
They just eat people when the moon's full.
They turn bigger. They got a bigger stomach. Hungry.
Yeah.
What's
predators?
The deal?
They're predators.
What's the deal with mummies? What's their deal? What's their power?
They're cursed, aren't they?
Yeah, but what's their goal? Why are they getting up and about?
Yeah, there does they're always part of an army or something. Aren't they?
Yeah, but isn't that kind of like a lot of zombies as well? Like, the threat is that it's not that they're zombies. A lot of the time are like, they're really powerful because they can't feel anything.
Yeah.
Or it's just there's just lots of them, man, and they're gonna get you.
Yeah.
Mummies might just be that, but I'd love a movie where it's mummies and the mummies are just like highly trained MMA professionals. Just a mummy running at you, getting you in a Muay Thai clinch and just kneeing you in the gut. Just really wearing you down. Where's that movie? Because the mummies, they don't really have a stereotype other than just covered in toilet paper.
Yeah.
Bring something new to it,
Yeah.
George A. Romero, he brought, hey, what if zombies could run?
No, that wasn't George A. Romero.
Who was...
Actually, in Return of the Living Dead, there's running zombies, but in 28 Days Later, popularized running zombies.
House of the Dead popularized it in video games, I believe.
But I'm trying to think of the director, which I should know. He did Train Spotting.
That's enough information for the viewer/listener to Google it and find out themselves. Come back to us and tell us the answer to our question.
I need to know that now, but continue.
Yeah, of course, yeah, that's going to bug you, isn't it?
Yeah. Very upsetting that I don't remember his name.
I don't think I ever covered my relationship to the Resident Evil video games, which is I don't have one. I've never played the games.
Not a single one?
Not a single one.
I have not even the new ones?
No, because...
Danny Boyle is the director of Train Spotting. There you go, people.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. Moving
on. Man, I really did.
But so you never played a Resident Evil in your life?
My entire life.
Did you watch other people playing?
I have seen footage of it.
Right.
Okay, I did and I recommend this video that I'm going to talk about now. I watched OSW Review did a 2-hour deep dive into the latest Resident Evil game, Resident Evil Village.
Yep.
That was... It was interesting.
Game.
It was interesting enough to watch 2 hours of it. It's mainly their charm and what they bring to the video.
Yeah.
And I thought, hey, I'll watch anything they put out. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that video. Don't need to play the games now. So it's just not something that interests me. I'm like, oh yeah, good for those people that go off and enjoy that.
Yeah.
Good on them.
Yeah.
Good for you, guy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Well done. Did you get that trophy?
No, I didn't really. I just play them for the story.
You finish
I
it.
get to the end and then I'm done. Yeah.
You don't need to complete it. Sometimes it's a grind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like watching the rest of these movies. You know, there's 3 animated ones.
I knew that there was at least 2 because I watched 2.
Yeah. I think it's Degeneration.
And they're actually made by Capcom.
Yes.
And written by Capcom staff.
They're
presumably.
linked to the games more than the movies.
Yeah,
They're
they
separate.
sort of act as sort of bridges, but none of them those don't really make sense either.
Or money. They don't make money either.
Well, they're kind of like, they're just extended cutscenes of what you now see in the video games, really.
Yeah. If they released one nowadays, like with the graphics and stuff that they've got, if they're going to borrow from the artisticness, the artistry of the current video games to make a movie, that might be pretty interesting.
Well, it would be if they bring in that giant big boob lady.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Lady Dimitrescu or
there
something.
we go.
Yeah,
you got it.
Yeah. The guy
you know that? The guy that's never played.
I watched 2 hours of some guys just harping on about how big her tits were.
I have no idea.
See, that's the thing. She's probably going to be a mascot for that game for years to come.
Well, I have to, spoiler alert for anyone who didn't play that game, she is killed in that game.
Yes.
But I feel like they have to bring her back because she was so
It's a zombie
popular.
game. Dead things come back to life all the time.
It's true. Yeah. We have one more clip to play, don't we?
Yeah. And it's mainly to observe the 2002's CGI, VFX, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Whatever the proper thing is to call that.
Yes. Also, I just want to pause it for the Red Queen's voice.
I've been a bad, bad girl.
Man, I was like, why is she why is she a kid?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Oh, they just explain it away, don't they? They just go, oh, she's a kid because she's the guy who's invented its daughter. Whatever.
Yeah. It was like,
okay.
And why does she have like a tough English accent when...
Because foreigners are always scary.
But this is America-based.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They always do that in
I know.
American
just,
film.
I was
things.
just like, man, they really stretched it with this kid and the voice.
I do like that one line.
What?
That they put in the trailer of, yeah.
You're going to die down here, or whatever it is.
Yeah, all right.
What is it? You're all going to die
Newspaper, all right, read all about it. You're going to die down here, ain't you? All right, I'm Tom Holland. Tom Holland's playing the Red Queen.
This is awful. Is it this bit?
Yes.
Oh my god.
What the fuck is that?
My thoughts exactly. Why did they give him such a juicy ass as well? It seems so strange to me. So these really tight buns on that liquor.
He also has tight buns for eyes.
It is terrible CG.
I don't think it's that bad, though. It holds up better than stuff that's come out later.
Yeah,
Probably with a bigger budget, too.
To me, I was like, oh man, again, watching this in the cinema and this came out, I was like, this really does not look good.
That's why they do a lot of CGI in the dark for horror movies.
Yeah.
There you can get away with a lot more.
Well, they weren't getting away with it here, and it was sort of in the dark.
Well, there was all the artificial lighting.
You know, there's this other bit too that I don't really understand. So she finds out that the bad guy was her husband.
Yes.
Were they both playing roles? Like, as in she was infiltrating there and he was...
Yeah, I'm not too sure what was happening before. I don't care.
No.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so anyway, he basically gets eaten a little bit by the liquor, but then he's coming back as a zombie, and then
so that thing's called a liquor.
And she gives him an axe to the head.
Yes.
And then she says, can you remember what she says?
Something shit.
Yeah.
It's not a great line.
She's like, I'm missing you already.
Yes, that's what it is.
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
What?
You've only just really rediscovered that he was, I don't
You're missing. What? The other weird part that I thought about this is because they both have amnesia.
Yes.
And then first she remembers that they've had sex.
Yes.
And then he's like, you remember anything? And she's like, yeah.
Must have been great.
Pretty unmemorable. And I was like, okay, wouldn't you say like, hey, well, I think we're in a relationship together. But no, she's like, nope, don't remember anything.
See, this is the second time I've watched this in the last 2 years. The first time I wasn't really paying attention very much.
Yeah.
And at the end I was thinking, wait, was he pretending to have memory loss? So he could get away, so he could get them to infiltrate it all for him. And then I was like, oh no, he just actually had memory loss too. I think my idea, despite it being a mistake, is probably a better premise.
Better. Yeah. It would make more sense because
you should put that in your movie.
Well, the weird part is they're like, so he does remember, and then he goes from being a good guy, nice guy, total good guy, and then he remembers being a bad guy.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm evil now. And it's like, wait a second, you know what happens when people actually do get amnesia and they start remembering stuff? There's sometimes quite a big disconnect to the person they were and the person that, and like even like, oh, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that within 30 seconds, that switch would not be flipped. And he's like, yeah, I'm in it for me now. I'm going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
A couple of seconds ago, I was totally sweet and I was a really decent guy.
Well, he was a guy who was there.
Yeah. He was a guy who was there.
As they all
no,
were.
and he did give her his jacket, didn't he? Do you remember that bit?
The bar is so low for a guy to be considered
and that's
decent.
How that's the love story. He gave her out.
Hey, you're a wet woman in a cold underground lab.
Hey, the
you want
love
a jacket?
is blossoming.
Woo!
Love is blossoming. Here's
Fucking
this jacket.
Do I hear wedding bells?
But there was this bit where they fight this thing. There we go.
Remember the Matrix?
Yeah. Too bad she didn't move out the way there. He didn't like tell her to.
Nah. He knew that she would because love is blossoming.
Open the doors!
Oh yeah. She's a zombie now because they didn't kill her when they should have.
She didn't even hide it. She didn't do that trope where you hide the fact that you've been bitten and then reveal it once she's a zombie.
Yeah.
Everyone knew she was going to be a zombie. And then, oh my god, she's a zombie.
Open the doors! Now!
Quick, Michelle Rodriguez is going to play a different character. Kill her.
This is where the CG looks the worst for me. This kind of whole segment. But this bit, I don't understand. I don't understand this.
I guess they're trying to get back to the surface.
Yeah, but,
and then it's just on board.
But why?
Why is it on fire?
Yeah.
Oh.
Friction?
It was in the budget.
Like,
it's in case you were falling asleep in the cinema. Loud noise, bright lights, you know?
So when I watched that again,
yes,
I was like, wait, what? Why did he catch on fire? And I was like, are we saying the friction from the train tracks caused him to be set alight?
Yeah, but then there'd have to be something flammable there, right? Maybe if they had have teased
it was just generating
a fuel
the
leak
heat.
or something, and you know, if he was being splashed with fuel, and then they could stab him in the tongue and
I was
sparks.
just like, he would never catch fire.
No, he's too wet. He's too moist.
Yeah.
Them buns be tight and moist.
And also, why? Why? And again, he wouldn't catch fire at that. Like, he literally catch fires almost instantly.
Yes.
Stupid.
Yeah. You reckon? That's the point where you went, it's a bit silly.
No, but that was just definitely one of the points where you're like, No.
That's the point, and then you look at how much time is left.
Yeah. Yeah. The worst thing about this film is nothing to do with what we've talked about.
Okay.
The worst thing about this film is the music of this film.
Oh, yeah, it's 2002.
This is a techno kind of hard rock Rammstein ripoff, very of its time, but also completely inappropriate for either being emotionally engaging or exhilarating in the action scenes or scary. Just the opposite of what you could possibly ask for. Like, this is like one of the worst movie music soundtracks that I've ever heard. It really struck me.
I'm gonna look up some of the names of the songs that were in this, and
Give
I think
them a shout out.
Absolutely, not so much just the names of this is how things were named in 2002.
Yeah.
There's going to be an expletive in here. That's how cool and edgy Resident Evil is. Cyanide 2600, Torched, My Plague, the new Abuse mix.
The new Abuse mix?
Yeah. You couldn't just have the original. Oh, that was written by the guys and performed by Slipknot.
There you go.
That's a Slipknot one.
I'm saying that Slipknot and Rammstein one piece.
Wall of Death. Fist Fuck. Fist Fuck got second billing in the music credits.
Second build on this Resident Evil. Man,
Michelle Rodriguez of the music in this movie.
Absolutely horrific.
Yeah, I loved it.
So yeah, to me, I was like, man, if I was to have any takeaway of this film is the music has completely ruined. It's just every time it starts, it takes something away from the experience.
The tail end of new metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was also very close to the beginning and the peak of new metal. It didn't last very long.
It all happened. Like I said, it was the other sort of Trinity moment is when Mila gives the zombie a leg headlock and snaps his neck.
Okay. Does a guy ever do anything like that in a movie ever? Because usually that turns into like a tilt-a-whirl, head scissors, hurricanrana type deal. That's a completely female action star thing. Like Black Widow is the one that kind of
does it.
She does it every movie she's in, right?
Okay.
That's just how they write them. They go, athletic woman do fight, got to do a spinny roundy arm drag, tilt-a-whirl, something.
Yeah.
Why can't guys use their legs? I got thick thighs.
That's right.
They wouldn't want me to do that.
I guess what to me was I was like, okay, what is the most dangerous move you could do that would put you at the most risk of getting bitten? Put your legs and crotch at the zombie's face and wrap your legs around.
Yep.
And somehow expect that you won't get bitten.
Okay, they explain in this movie that like even the slightest scratch, we don't want to risk it. And then you have people completely enveloped by a crowd of zombies and then they bust out. Or you have people getting, they're up to their waist and crawling away from them. They didn't get a scratch? Nothing? Not at all? Did they just have they got really well trimmed fingernails because they all used to work in a lab?
It is strange. I also enjoyed this line.
Proof of the research that was going on down here.
What kind of research?
The illegal kind.
Keep that up. I also enjoyed Michelle Rodriguez's opening line. Can you remember what that is?
No.
So she takes off her SWAT mask.
Yeah.
Blow me.
Hell yeah.
She's the best thing about this film, in my opinion.
Yeah.
She has an actual sort of character and acting. She has some
and
acting
she continued to use that for every single film she was ever in afterwards, was that same character
roughly the
and
same
that same actor.
A kick-ass action heroine, to me, that's like, as far as characters to be, that's pretty good. And also
believable. One
invested with some degree of humanity that you, the audience, connect to, which is where Mila Jovovich
stop trying.
Failed in this one.
She failed as much as you did in pronouncing her name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Badly.
But 6 more times.
6 more times. And they only brought Michelle Rodriguez back one time, I think.
Yeah, and they bring back the most boring man who ever
They
exists.
do bring him back.
Well, only they use archive footage for the next movie.
Thank God.
His character's in there.
Because also, she's really stupid in this film.
Which one?
Mila.
Okay.
She's really stupid. She's like, so this guy's surrounded by zombies, can't get out. There's no way they can get to him. And she's like, we're not leaving you.
Yeah.
No, fucking leave him.
Yeah.
He's bitten already. He's fucking done.
Her whole thing was trying to get everybody out of there.
Yeah.
And who did she save? The most boring man in existence barely show up in the sequel.
Who was also infected when they get out.
Oh, yes, but by the liquor. Different.
Yeah.
Different kind of infection.
But I did enjoy his line. So probably one of the other great moments is he has one bullet left in his gun, this guy that's surrounded by all the zombies, and he takes the gun and he puts it to his head like he's going to kill himself.
Yeah.
And then he chooses to shoot the zombie instead.
Yes, but you don't even see that
Which
moment.
you don't see now.
You see it off, you hear the
so
bullet
you believe
from
that he did it,
Yes.
that he shot his, and then you hear him say,
You're gonna have to work for your meal.
I think he was one of the best things in the film. He was great.
He was not bad, but I still think Michelle Rodriguez was better. You felt like, and when she was infected, you were like, damn, she's infected.
Yeah.
Man, I really hope she, that virus, the antivirus works on her.
Yeah.
Which it didn't. I also did enjoy her line. Someone is like, when it's revealed that the bad guy was with Mila.
Yeah.
She's like, your boyfriend's a real asshole.
That sounds like her.
So the only other thing that I wanted to touch on was the ending.
Yes. Very abrupt.
Yep.
It's like, oh, they made it. No, actually, we're setting up for a sequel really quick, and we've had this whole thing prepared outside the whole time, and we're secret agent kind of people, and we're going to kidnap you. And all right.
Yeah.
Yep.
She does wake up.
Oh, yes.
Not wearing very much at all.
She's wearing a handy paper towel, ultra large, on the front and the back with tiny little clips.
It's strange because it's like, would you really put a paper towel over her, or would you just have her naked for her modesty?
Yeah.
I don't know if they care.
No, not at that point. And it's kind of like they do and they don't, because it's like, wouldn't you just wrap a towel around her then if you care about her modesty?
Yeah.
They've gone like very halfway of
yeah.
Oh, I couldn't possibly see
double paper towel.
A nipple or a labia. No. But literally every other part of her skin, hell yeah.
Yeah. Now, you do see some side muff. You see some side boob. You see some side muff.
Yeah. That's where the big bucks come.
Which was quite alarming to a 19-year-old me.
Made you less angry on the way out, eh? And then she goes outside, finds a shotgun in a car, and then sets up a sequel by cocking said shotgun.
Yeah.
She goes,
well, she wakes...
Sequel time. Is that the line? Is that what she says?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
She. What I wrote is that she wakes up in 28 days later. She wakes up in that movie.
Oh, no, I just thought she was just asleep for 4 weeks.
All right.
Yeah.
But it's the least conclusive movie ending ever.
And she says, this looks like some kind of Resident Evil apocalypse, don't you think?
So it also starts with this amazing shot, and I don't know if we can pull it up. It's actually in the trailer as well.
Oh, yes.
Which I thought was actually really cool.
Yes. So a zoom in to begin the movie. Is that where you're heading? Who's the filmmaker now? Hey?
I actually wasn't thinking about the zoom out to end the movie.
Okay.
I just really enjoyed this zoom in from this black square. I thought that was a really cool way to start things.
Especially within like a boxed environment. And it kind of makes you feel like...
So when he's not ripping off the Matrix or Aliens, because also this is very Aliens. I don't know if you've seen Aliens, but...
who knows?
It's not canon in this podcast world, obviously, because it's not based on a video game. So there's a bit where they put their hands through the grates.
Yes.
That's a direct Aliens ripoff.
Yes.
Also, the idea of the SWAT team arriving, them kind of being sort of gung-ho mercenaries, that's very Aliens.
Yeah.
And so, there's just definitely some, you could see that, where Paul was getting his thing. That and the Matrix. But this shot, along with some of the other shots, I thought were him where he's actually, doing some really visually interesting stuff, because he can certainly direct action, I think.
Yes.
He can't write characters, can't have a plot that makes that much sense, but he can do action.
He can make a woman do a kick, can't he?
He can really get her to run up a wall. And, that didn't look too bad. I mean...
I think she's, like, pretty adamant on doing her own kind of stunts and stuff as well, where possible. Not to the extent of Tom Cruise.
This is the end now.
Yes.
This is the...
She's found a lab coat, though.
Yeah,
so.
She has found a lab coat. Paper towels are gone.
Yeah.
It is a bit chilly out.
Oh, that's some kind of reference to a game, probably.
The Dead Walk.
Yes.
Well, it's weird too because essentially Resident Evil, the original game, was a bit of an homage to George A. Romero's films.
Who then
wrote a script that they rejected.
That's very funny.
And then got Paul W.S. Anderson to do an homage to The Matrix.
Yes.
Rather than anything related to zombies.
Well, I don't think zombies were so in at the time.
Well, they were heating up.
Yeah. And then
that wasn't their peak. It certainly wasn't their heyday.
No, I think they peaked in I Survived a Zombie Holocaust.
That's right. My film, for those wondering. So I'll just play this, but I'll just turn the sound down a little bit so we can just talk over it. So she's determined. She's also been given superpowers at this point. We don't know that yet, but she has been.
Yeah.
Oh, she's still got the paper towel on. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Now, this is like quite an awesome money shot this pull out. Like, this would have taken some, because this, I don't think there's no CG up until this point, or maybe there's a bit of augmented CG. When we go further out, we can start seeing some things that are a bit more problematic.
A little bit janky.
Such as this blood splatter on the window and these smoking windows.
It's very bloodsplatter1.jpg from whatever little special effects
It's almost like they took it out of a video game and just pasted that on there.
And that's whoever got hired to throw paper all over this scene. Well done. You've really got it everywhere. That's a really good job.
Yeah. No, full credit. But I also was disappointed at the beginning of each game, or it used to be, the title would appear and it'd go, Resident Evil. Resident Evil. And I was really waiting for that at the beginning of this game.
Yeah.
And instead, the title just pops up. Very nondescript.
Yeah. I guess they used it in the trailer.
Yeah.
So they used it to hype the movie, but not really.
Yeah.
I mean, they always do that in the trailer, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of why we play them at the beginning.
I mean, those were my thoughts on this first movie game adaptation. Unfortunately, it's one of the best.
One of the best things we're going to cover, isn't it?
It's one of the best video game adaptations. And I will say, I know that maybe we've been a little bit tough on the film.
I'd say you more so.
More me than you.
You've got an attachment.
Yeah, I have a direct affinity to the game, so I feel like this bastardization is very offensive. But to be honest, it was more offensive to 19-year-old me. When I'm watching it now, 20 years later, I was like, you know what? That was actually pretty enjoyable.
Yes. So I enjoyed that more watching it the second time than I did the first time.
Right.
One, I didn't have to pay attention as much to the plot, but also so I kind of knew what was going on a lot more in it.
Yeah.
So that really helped. And yeah, just kind of letting go of any expectations. I think having no attachment.
Just losing all hope was
standard.
Definitely really a good move for the enjoyment.
Well, I was also in a very good mood when I watched it.
Right.
And that helped. Not with my mood, but with my enjoyment of the
Certainly,
game. Yeah. So in terms of the box office success, this was very successful and has gone on to make this, I think, the second highest grossing video game adaptation series of all time. Second to, I don't know, probably one movie that just trounces all of them. Always profitable, these movies, so that's why they keep making them. Maybe they had us in mind, eh? I thought someone's going to
do a podcast.
Yeah.
Someone's going to do a podcast about video games and they're going to need to review 7 of the same franchise.
Yeah, someone's mental health isn't debilitating as quickly as we'd like, so let's make these movies and make someone...
Let's really send them off a cliff.
Yeah. Apparently, James Cameron really enjoys this. It's a guilty pleasure of his.
Yeah, note the word guilty pleasure.
I don't think there should be such thing as a guilty pleasure. I think you should just be able to enjoy whatever.
Sure.
Really? Yeah. Like, if you enjoy it, claim it.
Be proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter what it is. Be like, oh no, that goes against my personal brand. Screw your personal. It doesn't mean anything. You know?
I like I said, I really like this film a lot more this go round.
Yes.
Than I did when originally watching it. Obviously, there's a lot of issues I still have with it, but fundamentally, it's a recommend for me.
Yep. You recommend it? Okay. So I'm going to introduce a rating system.
Sure.
I don't know how much you're going to like it, but I give this movie 10.
Yeah.
But out of what?
Okay.
I'm going to let you go first using that rating system.
All right. I'm going to give this 10 out of...
This is very on the spot, I know.
I'm going to give this one 10 out of 15.
Ooh. You know what? I'm going to match you.
Okay.
I think 10 out of 15.
Yeah.
That's That's a pretty high score.
Yep.
I mean, 15, that's heaps.
It may be the highest.
Have you heard what other people rate things? 4. Oh, that's a low score. Yeah. But not with us. No. The worse the movie is, the higher the score, in a way.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
So we'll give this 15.
Yeah, 10 out of 15.
I've got a sneaky little recommendation. I'm just going to chuck recommendations to do with the movie we've watched at the end. Just a little, not really homework, but just something a little bit extra if you enjoy watching us talk about this. A video by Corridor Crew called VFX Artists React. It's a series they've got. They're up to a very high number now, but they reviewed the laser scene on episode 3 of that series that they've got. So they get experts in who have sometimes worked on the pieces that they are reviewing. So that's always cool, seeing an insight of how the sausage was made. An absolute sausage of a film this was. So not so much of a sausage fest though, eh? Your two leads. Yeah. Thank you for watching or listening. I don't know if you know this, but the next episode we're going to be covering Uwe Boll's House of the Dead. Really want to get that underway. This is 2003 film because there's a lot of Uwe Boll to cover.
There is.
So strap yourselves in, including you, Guy.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Gotcha.